So in the first bucket, the Small Business Administration has designated their 7A as an Apple program, to be the conduit for nonprofits and small businesses to access $350 billion identified in the legislation for nonprofits and small businesses. So that money would go towards things like payroll and overhead. The way that the formula works is you take 1 month of your normal payroll, multiply that by 2.5, and that would be the maximum loan possible. Said differently, 250% of your monthly payroll is the amount that you can borrow through this SBA program. There are two really important keys. First key is if you will use those resources that you borrowed for the purpose of meeting your payroll up to 8 weeks, and then use the other 50%, 2 weeks, for your rent, mortgage, utilities, and employee benefits, that amount of money that you have borrowed becomes a grant or forgiven before your first payment is due 1 year in the future. If you do not use all the resources for the identified reasons, then it becomes a 2-year note with an interest rate half of 1%, 0.5%. The second area is the area of the contributions. We have, for the first time since the passage of the 2017 tax reform package, as you'll recall, the standard deduction basically doubles. So every American, without having to itemize, gets to keep more of their hard-earned money. However, that has, in some instances, led to fewer dollars coming into charitable organizations because folks under the caps aren't able to itemize. So this year, for the rest of the year, I've been able to write into the language of the legislation a $300 contribution in addition to your ability to use a standard deduction as well. Second component allows for a person to not only contribute 50% of their income, which is the rule today, but because of the virus, we were able to get it to 100% of your income you can donate to charities. And the final piece of that puzzle is if you are a business, typically you can contribute 10% of your profits. This year, for the rest of this year, we're moving that number to 25% of your profits. And then finally, nonprofits and churches specifically, as well as 1099 employees, those who are self-employed, are typically not eligible for unemployment benefits because they haven't paid into unemployment benefits. For the rest of this year, 39 weeks is the maximum amount of the base per state unemployment benefits that will be eligible for church employees who have been laid off or furloughed. In addition to whatever the state offers, the federal government is doing an additional $600 per week up to 16 weeks of enhanced unemployment benefits, and church employees are going to be eligible for that as well. And then of course the final piece of the puzzle is the direct payments. If you make $75,000 or less, check for $1,200 coming your way if you're an adult. Household income $150,000 or less, checks coming your way. If you have children in the house and you're under those statutory limits, then you get an additional $500 per child, and this is a tax-free direct payment.